From ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 in Southern California. This is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgensen.
Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. I am your host, Tyler Jorgensen, and today we have Justin Fenchel, who used to be here in Southern California, but coming to us today from Austin, Texas. And we get to talk about the wonderful world of entrepreneurship in the adult beverage space. And I'm super excited about this because it's not something I know a ton about. And I think that there's a lot of, anytime I learn marketing in challenging or difficult spaces, I feel like it's something we can apply to everywhere else. Welcome out to the show, Justin.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here, Tyler. Thanks so much for having me. And no question about it. The alcohol industry is something that's, I think, very fascinating to a lot of people. I think many of us are consumers of it, but don't fully understand the mechanics of how to bring a product to market and everything that goes into it. It's definitely different in that way. So excited to share our story.
Yeah, so we're going to go through Future Proof, the parent company, what you guys are doing with BeatBox Beverages, and we're going to go through a lot of this, but I want to wind it back first. Justin, when was the first time in your life that you realized you were an entrepreneur?
Man, there's so much there. I think it goes back to my dad. He was a commercial loan officer for years and ended up being let go by the bank he was at. But was at the time, what I would now call it, doing a little side hustle that he jumped into when I was 10 years old, out of our garage at the house we grew up in, actually in Van Nuys, California, and seeing what he was doing and how he's been growing that, which the business still exists today. And I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur because of what he was able to do. But I remember little things like, even when I was like 6 or 7 years old, we were at the airport, and at the time, like, that you could rent carts for getting luggage off of the thing, right? And if you returned them, you would get a quarter. So I would be sitting there, I'm like, what an opportunity. Like, everyone's just leaving their carts, forgetting about this quarter. And I would be gathering up all the carts and getting the quarters. And I remember my mom saying, like, hey, you are a little entrepreneur, doing those kinds of things, burning CDs in middle school and trying to sell them, all those little ways, but was always inspired by what my dad had done.
I think that's really cool. I think it's funny. A lot of the Gen X entrepreneurs have a lot of that same story, right? Like, and I think it's because entrepreneurs see the world different. They see it as a world of opportunity. And so an entrepreneur sees like, hey, people are leaving money. I'm going to go capture that opportunity, where other people see it as like a chore or a task. Right. And I think those simple things in our childhood is what like the indicators of who has the entrepreneurial bug, right? And
yeah, it's like you just have a way of being like that. They're just little inefficiencies that, whatever it is across any industry, someone says, wait a minute, that should be done better, or people are leaving money on the table, or I'm willing to do this because there's this big opportunity, for sure.
Awesome. And so you've got, there's a bit of a journey between, burning CDs and selling them in middle school to running an alcoholic beverage company, right? Like, what was your first big jump into the entrepreneurial space?
Yeah. It's pretty funny. Actually, one of my best friend and business partner still today in BeatBox and Future Proof, Brad Schultz and I. So we grew up together. We've known each other since middle school, and we've always wanted to do something entrepreneurial. I remember, there was the poker craze. So this was like in 2001, 2002, and poker was just going nuts.
Right.
And we were big into sports, and we were going to freshman year of college, and we were like, well, what about doing like MLB or NBA or college licensed poker tables and poker chip sets and all of that? So I actually went down the path and reached out to the MLB and these different sports organizations. And of course they send back this like 1,000-page document, and they're $500,000 upfront, like, payment for a license. And so that idea was quickly squashed, but we definitely tried. We went down the path of trying to figure out how we'd source these poker chips and tables and getting the licenses. After that, so I was working after college. I was an economics major, and I worked in finance. I actually was an equity analyst for a wealth management firm for about 5 years. And while there, after the poker chip idea failed, failed very quickly. But Brad and I tried to start. I was analyzing the financial markets, and Apple had just come out with the App Store. Like this was in 2008, 2009, and thought this thing was really fascinating. And Brad was working in entertainment for a media company and had partnerships with these developers and brands. And the idea was, well, what if we partnered with developers who could build apps for brands that had no clue what this app store was? I mean, Nike didn't even have an app then, right? Yep. It was so new. And we saw dollar signs, right? We weren't necessarily passionate about the space, but like we found this developer, we partnered with some pretty decent, brands, a bunch of music artists, and tried to create these apps. And so did that kind of on the side. I think I put like $20,000, $25,000 into this thing before we even tested it out, right? It was like paying the developer, trying to get these things done. And what was supposed to take 6 months to get to the app store took 1.5 years, was over budget. Like, again, you're trying to do it on the side, trying to make it work. Yep. And I think the most important lesson learned from that one was we did it because we saw an opportunity, not because we like loved the idea of making apps for this app store. And so we didn't fully give our all, I think, because we just didn't really, it wasn't anything that we really, but anyway, the apps generated like $2,000 in revenue. And it was like, that was the end of that. But I think there was a lot of lessons learned for the next endeavor, but that was a big one that we jumped into while we were both working full-time jobs.
So from that lesson, like how important to you, like, do you think it is to have passion for whatever business you're putting your energy into?
If you're trying to start a company and you are not passionate about what you're doing, just stop. Just don't do it. Like it becomes your life. Like you are spending every waking hour thinking about it. You're dreaming about it. You're executing on it. If you don't love it, then what are you doing, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You're going to burn out so fast because it's going to become such. I think a lot of people maybe jump like we did, right? It was like we saw dollar signs, we see this big opportunity, or we think it's going to be easier than what we were doing before, and none of that is true, right? Like you're doing it nonstop. It's the most work you'll ever do. You're in control of your own destiny in a lot of ways, and so you have to, if you're not doing it, no one else is.
I think most entrepreneurial ventures, there's always exceptions, but most you really go backwards for your first couple of years. Like a lot of people had to leave a job that was paying them that you're like, hey, you're not going to be able to make that kind of money for the next couple of years. And so it really takes like a long-term vision. And that's really hard to maintain if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, because it's like, you have a rough day and it's like, screw this, I'm going back to finance analyst. Like I'm going to go, go back to a job.
I ended up leaving my job because I really enjoyed being a financial, like an analyst and analyzing the stock market. It's super fascinating. It's given me a lot of great insights over the years, but I left because I didn't see myself doing that the rest of my life. But I'm still making less money on a salary basis than I was when I left my job 10 years ago. So, now of course, like there's the upside and the equity in the business and all that, but that's absolutely true. Like it takes a lot of time.
Awesome. And so like, I totally agree. I think that's a huge thing that entrepreneurs have to realize, is that it's going to take time and energy. And so make sure to be smart about what opportunities you use, because there is not a shortage of opportunities, right? Like, and I think that's a different thing that entrepreneurs realize too, is it's not like, this isn't M&M, right? You don't just have one shot. When you so whatever you're going to put your energy into, like pick one like that you're going to enjoy. That's my perspective.
To me, the ultimate definition of success is the ability to find something that you wake up every day excited to do. Good people, good area, industry, good whatever you enjoy the difference you're making, whatever that is for you,
right?
And that you can make a good living doing it. Like it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be a billionaire. You don't even have to be a millionaire. Like you just have to have a good living. I think most people will tell you that a lot of times people that are billionaires or multimillionaires, they're not even happy. Like it's that's not the end game. It's got to be something that you give yourself the freedom to do something that you really enjoy doing with good people around you.
Well, and I think that was a big thing that I learned from like Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek, right? Is like lifestyle design isn't necessarily about like making millions of dollars. It's making sure that you have consistently more income than outflow, right? And that if you do that, then you can take that energy and say, okay, what's the life I want to live? Because a lot of people spend all their energy building a business they don't love and don't travel, don't do all the things they're talking about. They're putting off their life to a later date. But if you can enjoy your company, enjoy what you're building, enjoy what you're doing, then, you can build in the dream lifestyle, whatever that is for you. Like I love travel. So this year's been crap for me, but like I love travel. So like that's a big part of what I try to build into my life. And so so you've launched BeatBox Beverages, and now you have like a parent company, you've got other brands and stuff behind that. How did you decide to go from licensed poker chips from the app store into, no, you know what? I'm going to sell booze.
This started, so it goes back to, I was in finance for about 5 years. I was 27. I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. So I was looking at what else could I do? And I ended up moving to Austin, Texas for the business school at the University of Texas. I knew I wanted to do something. I wanted to create something, dive into entrepreneurship, but I didn't know what. But during that transition from LA finance job to Austin was when Brad and I had kind of talked about this idea for a party version of box wine. And this stemmed from just being at a wine bar in Santa Monica and Brad going, we need some winergy. Like we need to, because everyone was tired, right? It was a sleepy wine bar. It was a work event. Everyone was tired. We need some winergy. And when he visited me the first week I was in Austin, we were just talking about winergy, like what would it be, right? And like this was right when Four Loko was out in 2011. You had companies like, Budweiser putting out Lime-A-Ritas, Mike's Hard Lemonade from Mark Anthony brands, like what is now called the flavored malt beverage segment.
Right.
And you had box wine too. Like we were drinking Franzia for tailgates, for kickball games, for going to the beach. Like box wine was always there in the millennial demographic, but it wasn't marketed to the 80 million millennials that were going to be over 21, in 2013.
Right.
And so I woke up the next day after just like flushing that out. We were just talking about winergy and the fun names. We had like Call a Cab, Zinfandel, Sauvignon Blanc out, like just crazy fun wine names. And woke up the next day and was like, you know what, I'm going to take this on as like a class project. I'm going to run with it, see what happens.
Nice.
And that evolved many, many times. Like I can remember waking up so excited, like with my fresh financial background, was putting together like our business plan and the people we would need and the money we would need and who we needed to talk to.
Right.
And that's where I met Amy, who's, one of our co-founders, and two other guys, Dan and Jason, who are no longer with us, but the four of us, and then Brad as well, we're all kind of getting it going. And we just ran with it. You leveraged all the resources of the business school, the professors, the resources, and to get ideas. And it evolved from winergy into, well, it doesn't need to be a wine. We want to make a flavored beverage. And so that was that. And then the other piece of it was our passion, and me certainly, for music festivals. So I love music. I love music festivals. I went to my first major music festival in 2009, which was Bonnaroo. I then went to Coachella and Electric Daisy Carnival and Austin City Limits, and you name it, I've probably been to it. And being at those festivals with hundreds of thousands of people, all just sharing the same feeling of just like, doesn't matter your race, religion, sexual identity, like none of it mattered, just having an amazing time with the people that mattered to you the most, and what show you were going to see next and what drink you were going to get at the bar next for 3 days until you had to go back to your, normal job.
Right.
And how do you capture that moment? That was like the music connecting us all, like the millennial, the Gen Z, is like globally, like how do you capture that into a brand? And so ultimately we landed on BeatBox Beverages, and the original product was a 5-liter bag-in-box in the shape of a boom box because it was the centerpiece of the party, right? It was this,
right.
And talking about our passion, like for me, I was always the one hosting the pre-parties, hosting the after parties. Like I love bringing people together and sharing good times. So this product was what we would have wanted, right? This is what we needed because we were tired of drinking beer. We were moving to different alternatives to beer. And now you've seen it explode, that trend. But this was like a product that we designed for us as 25, 26, 27-year-olds because we wanted to drink it.
I think so. Unpacking that a little bit, or unboxing it for this one, like I love that you guys were already consuming product, but you recognize, because you were going through business school and like you were entrepreneurial at heart, you recognize we're buying stuff that's not marketed to us. That means there's a gap, right? Like, doesn't mean you have to go reinvent the product space. You can just create a positioning opportunity. Now, I'm sure you guys have also done some really cool product innovations, but step one is like take just do a better job marketing to this new demographic.
Yeah, you would, it's exactly right. And we would dig into Franzia, which is the leader in box wine and the wine group, the parent company. And you look at Franzia, they were the number one selling wine in the world by volume. Obviously, it's a 5-liter box. It's a very affordable price point. They do a lot of volume with it. But they can't pivot and market that product directly towards the younger demographic. They're too big. It's too out there. It's like it would never happen. Right. And that was the opportunity to make a flavored, more fun version that we would want in that same format that we were already buying. That was really synthesizes it right there.
So what was you have this idea, right? You get in motion. What was the first roadblock that you hit and how did you overcome it?
Well, the first one was, I think this is an important lesson that we learn is, any time you're entering a space, like, again, we had no experience in the alcohol industry, none. I started to tell a lot of my friends about what I was going to do. And I think it's a misconception that people are like, oh, it's my idea. I can't tell anybody. Like, I need to go do this and I want to keep all my equity and they're going to steal my idea. I was like,
right.
No one wants to steal your idea. Like, no one, like, and if they do, like, if they hear this like concept and go take it and run with it and build a business better than you are full speed ahead on it, then you probably shouldn't have gone into it anyway. But anyway, one of my buddies that I knew from college, he's like, oh, you know what? My sister went to law school with a guy that's one of the top beverage alcohol law firms in the country. So I hit him up and he's like, yeah, he gave me an hour of time for free just to talk. And we said, this is what we want to do. He's like, well, everything you want to do with Winergy is illegal. Like the names, the formulas you want to use, like you just can't do any of it. But he's like, but here's what you can do, right? Like we wanted to make it then a spirits based. We wanted to do vodka punch. Well, he's like, well, and we go back to him. We're so excited. All right, no more wine. We want to do vodka punch. Well, you can't do that. You can't put hard liquor in more than 1.75 liters. But he put us in touch with this company that developed this kind of high alcohol wine base that tasted like a vodka. So every time there was a roadblock, it was just talking to people, Googling, lots of Googling. There's amazing what you can find on Google and, calling all the wineries in Texas, understanding how they were doing it. So that was a big one. I think the biggest, like after we got through all of that, and the lesson we learned from the app development was, and Brad had read the book, The Lean Startup, right? The MVP, how do you do that in alcohol, was we didn't sink any significant dollars into this until we knew it was going to be a really good idea. And so that meant for us, crowdsourcing the logos, crowdsourcing box designs, putting stickers on cardboard boxes. We emptied out Franzia bags, filled it up with vodka, Crystal Light, and food coloring. And we would take like an 8% version, a 10% version, an 11% version, a lemon lime flavor, a blue flavor, and we would go to a pool party. We went to a kickball game. We went to a tailgate, and we would put the boxes on the table, and we'd get a focus group of like 15 to 20 people. And we would say, go to the one you think looks the coolest and tell us why.
I love that kind of focus group. Like they get less effective the more that the better the product is, right?
But by the end of that, you'd lift up the 4 boxes and there'd be one that was empty.
Yep.
And you would ask questions. Well, why did you choose the 11%? It's like, well, I want to drink something that's high alcohol. Okay, cool. And you learn we got to be above 10%, and the price points and all that stuff we learned.
That's really cool.
Through those lean, and that only cost us like $5,000 total for everything, to get all of the raw materials, to get the LLC formed, and we would be at a pool party, and it was like the aha moment where you'd have 20 people in the pool would be coming over to the boxes saying, where can I go buy this right now? Trying to give us $20 bills to buy these boxes that we put together in our kitchen.
Right.
And, you're like, well, because people got it. They're like, holy shit, this is like box wine, but it's not, and
yeah.
And so it was really cool to see that. And that gave us a lot of confidence to then partner with a flavor company. Probably the biggest roadblock was Amy and I drove to the TABC in this was now in 2012, 2013. And we said, hey, this is our plan. We want to outsource manufacturing, because we didn't even know that there was distribution in alcohol or how that worked. We're like, we want someone to make it for us, and then we want to bring it into the state of Texas, and then we want to go sell it.
Right.
And they were like, whoa. Like, one, you can't sell it yourselves. You need a distributor, and you can't make it in the state of Texas. It needs, in order to bring it in from the out of state, you have to have a wholesaler. So you can't do anything that you want to do. And we were really dejected because it was like, well, what do we do now? But again, figuring it out, finding solutions. I remember we were driving back from the meeting with the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. That's the TABC. So the group that runs alcohol in the state of Texas. And I said, Amy, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to make it ourselves. and we're going to figure out how to make it. And we did. It cost us like 12 grand for this little Breaking Bad setup in this little winery that we created in a commercial warehouse in North Austin, $500 a month to rent. And we got our first product out there on our own. We figured out the permits to become a winery in Texas. We figured out the formula, how to make it, and we just did it.
Yeah. So I love you summarize that out like with you figured out and you found solutions. And I think, again, really highlighting that is one of the core personality traits of an entrepreneur is they don't see roadblocks as final things. It's like, okay, we can't do that. So this and I mean, you could have easily left, the attorney's office or that attorney's call, same thing. This is too complicated. We're not going to do it.
We can't get it.
It's like, no, okay, can't do this, this, and this. That means let's go down this road, right? And so you decided you're going to go get the permits, going to become a winery yourself, just go for it. When was the first minute, like other than that pool party, because those are really good examples, that you're like, hey, we have something, this is going to take off?
Our story is pretty unique because we launched in March 2013. We were still finishing up grad school. So we graduated in May 2013. And we got it into a bunch of accounts, at the time it was a bunch, like 30 accounts in between.
That feels like a lot when you're just getting started.
When you're just getting started, I mean, we were making it ourselves. It would take us, we'd be going to class, going to the warehouse and spending 10 hours making, 500 boxes.
Right.
And then putting them in our cars and driving them to the stores, which you could do as a winery. That was one of the things we were able to do. I think it was when we saw the first few boxes sold where we didn't have to hand sell them. Like you'd go in and we would basically be effectively giving the boxes to these stores and then going in and doing tastings to sell them.
Right.
And every one of the first, 100, 200 cases we sold were because we sold it to people.
Yeah.
But then when you'd go to the store and they had just gotten 12 boxes and you'd come back and there was none, that was a very exciting moment that, hey, some people are buying this without us having to do it.
I think that's one of the great indicators of any business is once the business starts to do well without the founder's momentum, right? Like, is this product selling? Is the market clearly seeing what this is and buying it without you sitting there doing a sales pitch? And that must have been pretty cool.
It was cool. And our product was so different. It was really tough. And we've gone through probably 50 packaging changes. And, from our initial feedback, it was, no one wanted a flavor name, right? It was like Red Bull. What flavor is Red Bull? Like, to be cool, it was like, it's just BeatBox, there's no flavor. But then of course you're doing these tastings and what's the first question everybody asks? What is it? What's the flavor? And you realize Red Bull had a $300 million marketing budget to launch in the US. And that's a little bit of a different ball game. People want to know what the flavor is.
Right.
So we learned all that stuff. But for us, I mean, we looked to raise money in 2014 after we got picked up by a distributor and outsourced our manufacturing. But then we went on Shark Tank like 4 months, 5 months later. So when, at the moment, kind of that big moment was when Mark Cuban on national TV invested $1 million into our company. That was when it was like, holy shit, like it's time to really go. That's when, Amy and Brad were both working other jobs and they quit and came full time. And
what year was that?
That was, we filmed it in June 2014 and we aired in October 2014.
And then what would you say, like, is there a significant, like, before Shark Tank, after Shark Tank life of the company?
Yeah.
Like, was it that big of a fulcrum point where like things took off, or was it just another step?
I think there was a before Shark Tank, there was an after Shark Tank, and then there was a after Shark Tank.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I mean, that we're talking about 7 years ago now, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You've had a lot of iterations since then.
Tons.
Would you advise other people that are in the situation now to go through the Shark Tank experience?
I mean, I think if you have an opportunity to pitch your brand in front of, 7-8 million viewers, you'd be insane not to take that opportunity.
Yeah. So that's going on Shark Tank. What about taking the investment?
Oh, I mean, we would not be where we are today without Mark Cuban behind our business. The ability to raise future rounds of funding, by having his name attached to us, the resources that he was able to provide at the start. His brother now is still on our board of directors, Jeff Cuban. So for us, that was fundamentally game changing. I think.
Awesome. So where is BeatBox now? Like now we're zooming forward all the way up. We've been kind of through the beginning stages. It's 2021. What are you guys doing right now? And what are your big goals for this year?
Yeah. So we are now across 35 states with nearly 230 distribution partners. We launched the single serve in 2017. That's our main product. That's like 95% of our sales now. We're going to do over 15 million in revenue this year. We did 7 million last year on BeatBox. So we've doubled every year for the last 3 years. We'll more than double again this year. We're going viral on all sorts of social media platforms, and the awareness. I think we had 50,000 unique visitors to our store locator in the last 30 days. This time last year, that number was like 8,000. So like 50,000 people. What is that? Almost 1,800 a day are going online and putting in their zip code to find the product.
Yeah, I love it. You're an eight-year overnight success. I'm loving it.
That's what I say. It takes about 10 years to become an overnight sensation. And it's funny to see some of the comments of people like, where did this come from? Where has this been? And other people are like, what are you talking about? This has been around for like 8 years.
Since I was in college.
Exactly. These people are 30 now. So it's just funny to see that.
But I think it's fascinating because that's just how the nature of virality is, right? Is like there's an initial group of followers, and then as it grows, each iteration is faster. So you're doubling every year. But all of a sudden now doubling 7 million is a lot more than doubling 1 million, right? And so now you see, and that each one of those dollars is attached to a human that bought and consumed and knows your brand, and that's just amazing in itself. I think it's so cool.
We had 3.6 million individual beatboxes sold in 2020, which I thought was pretty neat. And then this year that'll be 7.5, 8 million individual boxes bought, and we're still only in 5% of the total off-premise, meaning not bars, not restaurants, just grocery stores, convenience stores, liquor stores. We are in 5% of what we could be in.
So huge market opportunity.
Huge market opportunity. We've really found our groove. Like I'd say the after Shark Tank, we were with a big wine and spirits distributor when we came into Shark Tank. We were in 100 total locations in Texas when we went on the show. Well, in wine and spirits, you only need one distributor per state. And this particular distributor covered 25 states. And when we told them, it's not really directly, but like, hey, there's this person you might know in Dallas who might have a TV show that like is going to be airing sometime in the next few months. We need to be ready. They wanted us to launch in all 25 states with them. But at the time we had 3 founders and an intern trying to launch 25 states in an extremely complex distribution, industry. And with wine and spirits, which wine and spirits distributors, our product was wine based, but people have had a really hard time understanding. We are not a wine, right? It's wine based, but it tastes like our flavors are blue raspberry and and fruit punch. They taste like Gatorade and vodka.
Right.
They're delicious, but they're not wine flavors. So wine and spirits distributors are used to selling high-end wines and high-end whiskeys and tequilas and selling it in the liquor stores and in the fine restaurants and in those areas. But we needed to be in the convenience stores, but we didn't know that at the time, right? So we were launching through all wine and spirits with a product that they didn't really understand and that wasn't in their wheelhouse in the wrong channel.
Yep.
So we had to pivot all the way back, pull out of all those states and relaunch again in 2018 with the beer distributors who, the 7-Eleven buyer, the best. He's like, look, beer is a multi-billion-dollar category. Wine is in the millions. So the beer distributor.
That's the opportunity.
Yeah.
All right. So as we're here at the end of the show, this is my final question to everyone that comes on the show is, business is about building the life that you want, right? You don't do all of this just because you love working 90 hours a week. What is one thing on your personal bucket list you're going to accomplish this year?
Personal bucket list I'm going to accomplish this year. Man, I want to get back to music festivals.
There it is. Yeah.
Can't wait.
So if one's not happening, you're going to create one. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, no, they're starting to come back. We're getting a lot of inbound from different festivals that are saying, hey, we're going to be doing this in the fall. So I'm very excited to get back out to some major music festivals it's so fun to see our fans drinking our product, like where it was designed to exist.
I love that
moment. I'm super looking forward to getting back.
Yeah, it's got to be super rewarding. All right, everyone, we really appreciate you tuning in. Please go learn more about Justin and BeatBox Beverages. They're on Instagram. They're all over the socials. You can find them at beatboxbeverages.com. And Justin, super appreciate you coming out to the show. And all of our Biz Ninjas, wherever you're listening, watching, tuning in, or dialing in, it's your turn to go out and do something.
Thank you for listening to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with Tyler Jorgensen. Please make sure to subscribe so you're first to hear new interviews and episodes. If you found this podcast to be valuable, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to visit our online dojo at bizninja.com to claim your reward for listening to the show.